constantly held up and then thrown away. That's really what it is.
Held up and thrown away. Yeah, I can see how that would be very discouraging and infuriating. If only companies would, I don't know, stop elevating the virtue of diversity over personal merit, maybe that wouldn't be such a thing.
That's Izzy Odizor describing what the workplace sometimes felt like.
Felt like. Got it.
In a lot of the departments I worked in, I'm the only Black person, only Black woman.
So you are paying very close attention to the skin color and gender of other people. Got it.
And so Black History Month comes along, Ezzy, what are we gonna do for Black History Month, And so just like putting it on the only one Black person, or having my face put into campaigns without my permission.
All right, well, proceeding backwards, yes. Barring something in your contract that says otherwise, using your likeness in company promotional material without your consent or input would be a legitimate grievance, so stipulated. But on the Black History Month issue, I really have to wonder what our speaker's reaction would have been if she were excluded from such discussions. Would she have been happy to be ignored on the subject, do you think?
What Izzy is describing is often labeled as tokenism, defined as the practice of making only a perfunctory or symbolic effort to do a particular thing, especially by recruiting a small number of people from underrepresented groups in order to give the appearance of sexual or racial equality within a workforce.
This is a nearly perfect description of both the philosophy and intent behind diversity and inclusion programs. Companies fear the bad optics of a workforce that is too much of any one thing, and so they have to take steps to artificially recruit and hire people from targeted demographics in order to look not racist, even if the company isn't actually racist, because it's appearances that matter, first and foremost. And just like affirmative action, the knowledge that there is a racial component in both hiring and promotion practices in a company will do nothing but create suspicion over the true merit of anyone who falls within the helped demographics. But I have a feeling that none of that reality will be acknowledged here.
There's an illusion of equality, but that's not what's really happening.
Jamal believes many companies lack diversity and often hire people of racial backgrounds to appear more diverse. And many employees end up realizing this after they're hired, when they're given race-related responsibilities which they didn't even sign up for, or when their voices are not given much weight in the workplace.
Well, if people are literally being hired for no other reason than their race or ethnicity, those are federal crimes, and they should be investigated. I wonder if that fact will be brought up.
I was actually hired to be the first woman of color executive director of a women's rights organization.
Wait, you were hired to be the first woman of color? Like those were both job qualifications?
But once I got into the day-to-day, it was very clear that my role was not what it was stated. And I had little to no decision-making power on anything. There was just no question I was being tokenized.
And you're a civil rights attorney. So once you understood that you were hired only on the basis of your race and your gender, you brought a lawsuit against that organization for civil rights violations, didn't you? Now, I went to our speaker's LinkedIn page, but there was no listing in her work experience about being an executive director for a women's rights organization. Now, maybe she didn't bother to add it to her work history, but I would be really curious to know if she took any legal action as a civil rights attorney against such a racist and sexist organization.
Many racialized individuals feel that their growth within a company is also impacted.
I've been put in a lot of positions where I've been asked to consult on very senior level things. But when the job that matches that comes up, you're not given that job and you're told you need more experience.
So, were they lying to you because you're black? Or did you not actually have the relevant experience? I mean, I've sat in on sales meetings before, and I wasn't even a salesman. I've even been asked to give my input on such things. But sitting in on a meeting, or helping with a project, does not then make me qualified for a sales position against someone who has been doing the relevant work for years. That complaint of our speakers was something of a non sequitur.
According to Stats Canada, in 2016, 27.5% of black women and 27.7% of black men between the ages of 25 to 59 received their bachelor's degrees, while 32.7% of non-black women and 26.7% of non-black men received a bachelor's degree.
Bachelor's degrees in what subjects?
Not a big difference there, yet the unemployment rate for black men and women between 25 and 59 years of age is almost twice compared to the rest of the population.
Bachelor's degrees in what subjects? And how do those trends in degrees align with the boom or bust markets in associated industries? This is a God of the gaps theory of statistical analysis. Look, there's a disparity. Obviously, the cause is purely X. I don't need to prove that. I just need you to infer it. Got it.
So why are we not seeing that translated into hiring practices? Why is it that most of the managers that are hired are still white, or not black, or not First Nation?
So, even if we allow that all bachelor's degrees are created equal, you want people to be hired, first and foremost, on the basis of their race. But, I thought we were trying to stop a system of tokenism. I must be missing something.
Some racialized employees say they have a hard time landing senior management roles.
Some do. All right. How many is some?
In an environment that has marginalized, racialized people from positions of leadership, how are you going to ask for 15 years of leadership experience? That qualification is remarginalizing.
So, no white people are ever disqualified from such positions on the basis of that same requirement? And, leadership experience. I mean, I have no idea what standards any particular company values over another, but I've seen shift manager at Old Navy used as an example of leadership experience on a resume. So, yeah, I must be missing something.
So what can organizations do differently to be more inclusive and not just use the guise of diversity as a measurement for representation?
But diversity and inclusion programs are a measurement of quote-unquote representation. Companies set out specific goals for what percentage of females or people of color they want to achieve in their workforce or in their executive level. Assessing people on the basis of race or gender in the world and in the workplace is always a losing proposition. Making it a part of a soulless corporation only mechanizes the process, making a dehumanizing philosophy all the more inhumane.
Perhaps it's shifting our idea of what we see as a leader, shifting our idea of credentials and job applications where we think about what skill sets we're looking for. Maybe we're looking for skills rather than credits or merits, right? Or education.
Wait, skills are not meritorious? And so, You want to downplay relevant work experience and education in favor of skills, unqualified, uncertified skills. All right, well, how will you assess the quality and extent of these skills in your hiring process? Are companies going to have to all run their own certification programs for potential hires in the absence of a work history or a relevant educational degree? I am dying to know how that would work.
Jamal says it's more than just an individual.
You have to think about, what are the values of my organization?
Well, apparently, one of those values is to look at people and judge whether or not they should be expected to have education or work experience simply on the basis of their race. Or, did I misunderstand you?
Is my organization inclusive? Have I thought of everything? So before rushing to just hire a bunch of folks who are diverse and maybe who have different perspectives, let's look at that.
You just told us that in order to attain more diverse people in the workplace, that companies need to lower the bar of qualifications down from work experience and certified education to a skills-based model in order for more diverse people to be hired. Now you're saying not to just go out and hire diverse people, even though in your mind, lowering the bar would open the floodgates for hiring such individuals. Is it just me, or is our speaker not making much sense?
This can take time and money, so in the meantime, companies can also ensure to focus on accommodating individuals who may be feeling isolated because there aren't many people around them who they identify with.
So, it's the company's responsibility to see to their employees' at-work social lives? Under the assumption that employee X is so racially or ethnically paranoid that they cannot function alongside anyone not similar to themselves? Got it.
If that's all we can afford right now, it's important to ensure that we do an internal audit and really create a sense of belonging for that person.
You want to spend company time and resources to make an individual employee feel like they belong. Got it.
That could look like thinking about the way your meetings are held, right? That they're not isolating one person, that they're inclusive to that person's learning environment.
What does that even mean? Learning environment? Are we back in school all of the sudden? Because I thought we were here to work.
But also, I think it really is about changing the organization itself to be more inclusive.
And would that be through diversity and inclusion programs? You know, the things that are generating a sense of tokenism in the first place? This whole thing really is a serpent eating its own tail situation, isn't it?
Dr. Shawnee says hiring consultants to help create an inclusive culture is also another good approach.
Oh, yes, we can't forget about the consultants. You know, the experts on diversity and inclusion. I mean, they need to eat. They have so much equality to bring through their race-based and gender-based and totally not legally questionable advice.
There needs to be a dedicated committee with different people, different voices there to ensure that we can develop policies that promote the upward advancement of many Black and also racialized people.
Oh, so you want to create a diversity committee where the primary qualification is that you have a particular skin color to oversee how people of particular skin colors are hired and promoted in a company. Got it.
Jamal says after the reignition of the anti-racism movement, many companies have started giving diversity in their workplace another thought.
Yes, because to do otherwise would be racist. And none of such actions taking place now are purely for the sake of reactionary public relations. Got it.
She says, while this is great to see, companies really need to think about revamping their overall culture to include diversity, inclusion, and equality for all.
So, in order to avoid and dispel an atmosphere of tokenism in the workplace, companies need to A. Not ask Black people about Black History Month. B. Shift job requirements away from qualifications and towards a nebulous skills-based model. C. Treat diverse employees as though they don't know how to make friends and are themselves racist. And D. Create a company race committee. Sounds like utter contradictory and hypocritical nonsense to me. But hey, what do I know? I mean, I am white. As always, thank you for watching.